the freedom of being emotionally, mentally, and physically healthy. And it's because of how I choose to eat.
How did you find the carnivore diet?
So it was like 2018 or 2019, so a number of years ago now. And my mom had been, we had understood that my mom had dementia and was really struggling at that time. And I'm the kind of person that goes on a mission. So I want to find the answers, and I just do deep dives and rabbit holes all over. So I was had already been on my own health care journey, I guess you could say, and trying to clean up my diet and wanting to live a long life and doing whatever I could to do that. So I already had that mindset, but now I was trying to figure out what do I need to teach my mom to do so that in the years that she has left, she can be healthy. And so I started doing some research, and I came across, I don't know which order it was, but it was Dr. Sean Baker and Dr. Saladino kind of around the same time. And that whole mindset of eating meat only was scary and fascinating. But because of the journey I had already taken myself on, like starting probably 20 years prior, which was taking out, artificial sweeteners from my diet and taking out high fructose corn syrup from my diet, I was already in a mindset to eliminate, right? So the idea of eliminating more foods wasn't foreign to me. And I thought, let me just try this and see what happens. So I had gone on this deep dive to find out more about what it would be like to eliminate everything else. There's nothing else. If I had already eliminated those two, let's just do it all. And I wanted to give my mom and my dad that same information. And in my attempt to do that, sadly, my older sister intervened. And she doesn't believe in any of this, woohoo health stuff. So she admonished me and said, no, food isn't going to save mom. It's, the doctors know what they're doing, and you're just an elementary school teacher. You don't know what you're talking about. I didn't have the support from there, so I kind of had to do all this on the sly. Sadly, I wasn't able to save my mom. She did end up passing in 2020. But I, in honor of her, right, and in honor of me wanting to continue to be healthy and live long and not suffer how she did, I decided that I'm going to commit to this way of life. And so I cut everything else out. And that was, like I said, 2018, 2019. And now that we're about 5 years in, I've kind of gone through many iterations of carnivore. I would say now I'm more animal based. Because one of the things I can say I'm enjoying about this is learning how I react to food, right? So when I eliminated everything and was only eating meat, anything that might have been a food reaction that I didn't know I was having reactions to because I had just always felt that way had gone. So headaches gone, muscle aches gone, anxiety gone, anything you could name gone. I didn't have to take aspirin for anything. I didn't have to take Tums anymore. There was nothing I needed to do. I never even felt my stomach digesting food because meat is utilized, right? I never felt myself digesting food. And at that point, I thought, I'm just like, this is what it's like to live, like to not have pain. I can have life without being in pain. I thought some level of pain was normal, some level of discomfort. That's just what happens when you reach 50 plus. You're going to have some discomfort. None anymore. So I kept on. I guess I did reach a point where I started to struggle with carnivore. And my only struggle, though, was not in how I was feeling, but the expectation of losing weight was not happening for me. I'm one of those people where either I had a lot of healing to do or I was doing it wrong. But feeling good was more important at this point than losing weight. And for a woman to be able to say that my weight was secondary was like such a mental, a mind thing. I don't want to, it was a weird moment. I don't care so much about that right now. I could still stand to lose like 30 or 40 pounds, but I feel good. So I'm sticking with this in the iteration that I've come to now because I feel good. So that where I am now with carnivore, animal based, is my first choice is always meat, always. Now I'm in a high protein, moderate to low fat iteration of carnivore. It is helping me manage weight a little bit better now that I'm postmenopausal. And there are times I don't tell myself no to things. So there are times if I'm in the mood to have some berries, I'll have a couple berries. If I'm in the mood to have what is it called? Like the small batch homemade ice cream at a little ice creamery in town with my kids, I'll have that. But what's different for me now is that that doesn't cause me to go down a spiral of making poor choices. That tells me, what I say to myself is, that was yummy and that was fun, but this health is so important. So I don't need to do that again for 3 months, 4 months, 6 months. And I can truly appreciate food and taste and texture and not be eating for any emotional reason.
So the first thing I have to say is I've never heard I've never heard eating steak described as woo before.
Right?
That's the first time I've ever heard that. I would have thought steak was one of the least woohoo things that we could have come across. And let me say, I'm very sorry to hear about your mum. So right now, how you're kind of basically eating meat. Of course, you mentioned you'll have the berries sometimes if you feel like it, or the ice cream from the creamery or something. But that's not an everyday kind of thing. So, like on an everyday basis, how many times are you eating? And is it just steak? Is it like almost lion, or is it, eggs and things like that as well, dairy and stuff?
Yeah, that's a good question. It'll help me to clarify too. I'll eat, mostly it's 2 meals a day. Things are always changing, right? As I learn more, I want to try something different. So currently, I think we're in September. So this month, I changed things up. So now I'm 2 meals a day. I will eat breakfast. Since I'm a school teacher, I have to be at work early. I eat breakfast at like 6 in the morning. If I don't eat at home, I bring it to work with me. And that would be, it kind of depends on if I'm having a higher fat day or if I want to have a low fat, high protein day. So we'll take today, for example. Today I'm having a high protein, low fat day. I'm utilizing the fat on my body and using that as my fuel, right? So today I had, Maria Emmerich, right? The Emmerichs. She has a protein sparing bread that I learned how to make, a recipe. So it's bread made from egg white and egg white powder. So I had that like a sandwich, that with some sliced turkey and sliced ham. Full. That was like 50 grams of protein in that sandwich. All animal based. There was nothing else in there that wasn't animal based. And I haven't eaten since then. That was at 7 this morning, and it's 5:30 in the afternoon here in Los Angeles. Not hungry. 50 grams of protein will hold me over for a while. We'll probably have dinner here in about an hour or two, and we have leftover cube steak or steak bites, kind of like stew meat that I had made last night. So my family will have the stew with the potatoes and the carrots, and I'll just have like 4 or 5 ounces of the stew meat, and that'll be my day. Then I'm done.
like for the family, you're doing the majority of the cooking.
Sadly, yes.
And um so I guess when you're preparing on your own, I think certainly for myself, I've felt like the great thing about carnivore is it's just so easy, and there's no thinking, there's no preparation. It's just, cook the steak or cook the beef or whatever. Um have you found it much more work or about the same, like preparing a meal for the family and also having your meals separately?
Yeah, some days it is more work. It depends on how annoyed they are with me and the way that I'm choosing to eat. My son is 21 and he's kind of taken on an animal-based lifestyle. He's starting to beef up, and his body is developing into a very muscular body. He's having to do very little work to make that happen. So he doesn't mind whatever I cook, he'll eat. My daughter's a little different. She kind of misses pasta sometimes. So, right. So those days I have to make sure that let me just say how I would cook that night, right? So I'll cook the ground beef, right? And I have to remember, for me, before I pour that sauce in, I've got to take out my portion and set it aside and keep it warm. And then I make the pasta and the meat and whatever vegetables, and they all know not to touch mine. But for a family of four, that meal is like probably 4 pounds of ground beef, because I'm eating probably a half pound of it, if not all, at that meal. I'll have the leftovers the next day, and between the three of them, they'll eat almost all of that meal, and the leftovers my son and daughter will eat the next day. So I'm cooking a lot of meat at each meal.
Wow. So
Yeah.
I'm interested to compare. So you're going through 4 pounds of ground beef in like that one meal. Um, what are you paying for that in California? I'm interested to between California and Japan.
Yeah, so really depends on where you shop. So I don't shop at Whole Foods, because if I shopped at Whole Foods, it's like $5 to $6 a pound. Uh,
Right.
for meat. I've found Aldi, and I have another market here. It's like an independent store called Grocery Outlet. And Aldi's ground beef is, I don't know, I could get, I'm thinking, yeah, so I could get like a 5 pound hunk of ground beef there for about $17. So that's
That's
less than
awesome.
$1 a pound. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
It's a really
nice.
good price. So as long as I stay out of the chain supermarkets, I can get my beef really nicely priced.
Yeah. Yeah, Japan's pretty expensive. Like just in a regular supermarket.
Hmm.
It's probably kind of Whole Foods level just in the
Oh,
regular supermarket here.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's a lot.
Yeah.
But I have like everybody in my home, we're all adults now. My son's 21, my daughter's 18, my husband's my age, 54, and he's kind of his job is very active, so he's starving by the time dinner comes. So I have to cook a lot. I have to cook huge meals. uh,
Yeah.
yeah.
And how does your husband feel about it? Is he bought into it at all?
Some days does. He vacillates, does a little bit of everything. So if he's feeling carnivore-ish for a week, he'll eat meat, and then he'll go back to his he has like protein bars in the garage freezer. He'll eat those from time to time, and he does a little bit of everything. Just he's
Yeah.
not committed, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. But he's not committed, but he's also not kind of backing away slowly. He's not kind of going, "Oh, you've gone all crazy on me." It's yeah.
Exactly. That
Yeah.
reminds me
Oh,
that
nice.
my daughter for a time was really worried about me, and she's just turned 18, so she still has is developing her communication style, I should say. And when she was really concerned about how I was eating, she had strong opinions and came to me one day really upset and said, "Mom, I don't think you're doing the right thing. I'm really worried about you. And I think you're just following the crowd, and you haven't researched this enough." And even though she didn't know how much I actually did research it. So of everyone in the family, she was the most concerned and expressed her concern with the most like fervor, the most strength.
Mm.
Now she's okay. Now she sees and understands that I'm healthy and that I feel good. I don't take any medication for anything. Um, of the parents in her friend group, I'm the one that looks the youngest and acts the not mature wise, but like acts like I have energy, right? I'm not walking around in pain, and I think she understands it's what I need to do.
Nice. What do you think the biggest change has been for you? I mean, it's been a long time, like 2018.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what's the biggest improvement you've seen? I mean, I guess over that period of time, it's also hard to remember exactly how bad things could have been, right? But
I because I've done a lot of changing since then, right? I when I started, I was also I was premenopausal. So my body was doing things I wasn't even like I wasn't aware that was happening. So some of my anxiety and my headaches and body aches and not sleeping well was probably related to that. As I have matured and gone through this menopause stage, which wasn't fun, what I'm trying to say is I'm glad that I had carnivore, because if I didn't start that when I did, this process would have been miserable, right? Um, I think that was the biggest change, the thing that I've noticed, especially if I compare myself to other women my age, my friends and my colleagues who are still struggling, right, with going through this transition. Um, I'm not. I do have to say on the side, I am taking bioidentical hormone, but that's in addition to the carnivore and animal based. And I started taking that afterwards just for an extra boost to get myself through. Um, that's been the biggest change. Secondarily, would be all of my disordered eating patterns gone. Gone. I can't, like I told you before, I could go out and have a little thing of ice cream and not flip out and need to have carbs for weeks and months and days. And I don't say to myself, damn it, why did you do, what's wrong with you? Why did you have why did you eat that? That's not carnivore. I'm not dogmatic. I don't put myself down. I know that what I'm doing is healthy, and I'm it's so free not to have like a disorder. That's the thing. I think that's the biggest thing, just the freedom of being emotionally, mentally, and physically healthy. And it's because of how I choose to eat.
do you think your husband or your family generally notices a change in you?
Oh, gosh, yes. My husband tells me often that I am less reactive. I don't haul off and get angry anymore about little things like dishes not being done. I don't care. They'll get done. um, I'm, yeah, I think from the husband perspective, that's the thing that he notices the most, just a calmer, gentler me. Um, and that actually translates into my career also as an elementary school teacher. I have much more patience for 24/7-year-olds than I have had over the course of my 23-year teaching career. I can handle anything in the classroom.
And yeah, and that many 7-year-olds requires a lot of patience.
Yeah.
Um, so that's interesting you say that, because personally, I feel that's one of the big things for me as well. Like, I'm not as reactive, and that's whether that's in a social context or a business context. Um, yeah, and as a husband myself, I'm sure that your husband very much appreciates the not going off about the dishes or whatever.
Yeah. It makes the marriage and the relationship so much
Mm,
better, because we can just appreciate each other and not worry about these little things. When I
yeah.
was when I was eating whatever it was, pasta without meat, pasta with butter and Parmesan cheese, um, I would immediately feel bloated and get a headache, and then I'd be cranky, and then and then when you're cranky, you can't be responsible for your. It's harder to be responsible for your actions, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because it's
none
like
of
any, I mean, it's literally a drug, right? It's like any
it.
other
Mhm.
drug. It affects you, the way you think and the actions that you take and all that kind of thing.
Exactly. And meat, whether it's meat or egg or, whatever it is, animal foods are, they're calming. There's like, what I feel is that because it's something natural that we're eating, right? It's centering, right? We're centered, we're grounded, we're aligned with the earth. When we're eating something that comes out of a box that's full of all of the chemicals and preservatives and additives, what are we aligned to? What is that?
Mm-hmm.
That's complete, it's chaos in a box, right? So chaos in a box turns into chaos in here, and we're trying to live like that. Ooh, I feel
Yeah.
total alignment now that I'm eating what comes from what's alive and that comes from the earth and that was we're supposed to be eating.
Mm.
I don't eat any, no, yeah, I don't eat any vegetables. I was thinking a pickle now and then, but that's actually a fruit, so because it comes from a cucumber.
Ah, okay. Yeah. Maybe this is a little bit of a weird point to make, but just seeing your cat in the background before, and thinking about my cat, you know, animals are a lot smarter than us because, animals are not trying to go, you know what? Maybe I can manage my diet better than I am at the moment. Maybe, you
Right.
know, and they're not they're just going, that's what I eat. And yeah, sometimes I'll eat that. And if I'm starving, I'm gonna eat, whatever happens to be running past.
Mhm.
But, that thing that's growing out of the ground, there's no need for me to eat that.
Right.
Like you put ice cream down for your cat, it's gonna look at you like you're insane. You know, but we would go, "Oh, thanks for that. That's awesome."
Yeah,
Uh,
right. The treat.
it's we're just constantly, second guessing things and whatever. It's so, and this is just kind of on your point of eating an animal-based diet is calming. It's because it's just that's what we're intended to eat, right? It's
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. I taking that point and going further with it. So when I am at work, for example, most of the people I work with are women. There's very few men in education, which is a shame. um, and we eat lunch together from time to time. I don't, I eat my breakfast there, so I'm just with them at lunchtime, and I'm watching what they're eating. Or not nourishing themselves with. So one of my colleagues drinks little protein shakes, like the really cheap protein shakes. And I saw them in the market the other day, decided to look at the ingredients. And the second ingredient was canola oil. And she's just like slugging down these chocolate protein shakes. You might as well drink the bottle of canola oil. And she is angry at work and she's frustrated every day and she's exhausted and complaining. And I hear her in the classroom next door yelling at the kids, sit down. She's filled with oil, she's filled with toxins, and I feel so bad. And then my other colleague happens to be a vegetarian, and she's eats lots of beans and lots of kale, and she's also high anxiety and very nervous. And another colleague brings lean cuisine, the frozen meals, because she's trying to lose weight. And she eats one of these, it's like this big, like 6 inches wide of pasta and meat and vegetables. And she's gaining weight. And it's frustrating to see people I care about harming themselves. But I can't, you know, I can just do what I do. I can't tell them what to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The See, that's the thing, right? Because you can see the problem and you want to help, but if you kind of jump in there and say, "Look, why don't you just try this?" You end up looking like, you're trying to indoctrinate them into some kind of cult or something,
Right.
It's
Right.
Yeah.
So, I look at myself and I look at them, and I'm grateful for me having found this information and found all of you on, on YouTube. I'm not a YouTuber. I don't have a channel. That's not my personality to want to do that. So I'm just so grateful for all of you guys who are, because it helps me have a community where I can't get a community out in my, day-to-day life. Um,
Mm.
right. And then I think I kind of went on a whirlwind all around, but what I'm trying to say is when I look at myself compared to other people my age in the world, in my life, I'm grateful that I found this, because I'm going to
Mm.
continue to be healthy and pain-free and disease-free, and that's exciting.
Yeah. Right. And I think, yeah, the community is a really important aspect. I think I've found that one of the things is finding this way of eating and finding the benefits of this way of eating. Puts you in this position where that's one of the things that you want to talk about a lot, and like even though you're not going to go to people like, your colleagues and say, hey, cut out the canola oil and you'll do much better, or
Mhm.
things like that. Um, you're looking for opportunities to bring it up, or certainly I am anyway. And like I'll have students in class with me, and the older, like the high school students, I'll be challenging them rather than them being reactive. I'll be like, why don't you ask me a question? And I always love when they'll say, what did you have for lunch or whatever, and I'll say nothing. They go, what, nothing?
How do you do that?
And that, yeah, then that gets a little bit of a conversation going with them. But um yeah, I think the community is really important. It's really good to have
Mhm.
that like-minded outlet. um how is the reaction in, like, I see California. I don't know, I have lived in California, but only for a very short time. And it was a long time ago. I see California as kind of uh, a little bit more anti-meat than maybe other areas of the US. Um, are there any negative reactions when people see you kind of eating your ground beef or your hamburgers or something like that?
Yeah, well, at work, sure, they do question me often, like, what? Well, they question only because, I cook it in the microwave, or I reheat stuff when I'm in there, so they're smelling bacon and beef and all of that, and this is the reaction: "Oh, it smells so good in here. I wish I could eat that." And I'm like, you can eat bacon and beef. No, no, I don't want heart disease. Are you kidding me? I'm gonna high cholesterol. Don't you care about that stuff, Jen? And I'm like, yeah, I do care about it. But I care that I don't have to care about it because this
Uh,
food doesn't cause that. So that's where I get to have the conversation. But because they're so indoctrinated in saturated fat is bad, we can't eat beef, vegan, vegetarian, plant based is what we're going to do to save our lives and long live us. Since that's where they are, it doesn't matter what I say. So
right. So their reaction is more kind of old school cholesterol is bad kind of reaction, rather than more kind of recent times, like, you're going to destroy the environment kind of thing.
yeah, I get very little of the
Yeah.
destroy the environment talk.
Mm.
Um, I do have that debate with my son here and there. Like, he still questions that. So I just send him, YouTube videos to watch, or I'll send him an article, and he's open minded, so he's willing to learn.
Oh,
Uh,
that's good. Yeah.
yeah. Um, it's not like out in the world, if I'm going to restaurants or something, yes, there's plenty of vegetarian and vegan restaurants all around, but I just don't go to them, right? So I'll find the places that give me options.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Um, so going forward, this is it for you? Your carnivore for life, or your animal based for life?
Yes. animal based for life. If I decided, if I didn't have any grit, or if I didn't have any perseverance, and I got so fed up and said, well, I'm not losing weight, so why should I be doing this, right? If that was my mindset, okay, then I might go back and eat other things because I'm not losing weight. But I don't have that mindset, because for me, that's secondary. Like, my health and
Mm.
happiness is first. So I know what it feels like now. I know what eating the wrong food does, and the gastrointestinal distress and the headache and the uh, anxiety. That's one thing I don't want. But I also want to live longer than 74 years, which was the age that my mom passed away. And she apparently had the Alzheimer's started, in her late 50s and early 60s. I'm just a few years away from that now. Um, so I don't want that. I don't want my children to be
Mm.
just starting their lives and me be gone, not be able to
Yeah.
enjoy it with them. So for me, if I lose weight, great. Doesn't matter. I want to be alive.
Yeah. That's a really important point that um, really does bear emphasizing. And I think it's the sentiments that every single person that I've interviewed has said or alluded to. And it's certainly the way I feel as well. Like the weight loss, if you get it, is great, but it's a secondary thing.
Mhm.
Everything else is the important stuff. Yeah.
Mhm. I can, now that it's been so many years, I can tweak things and make weight loss happen. So it does take some extra work and creativity and research, because we're not all one. You're going to react to food different than I am. You're different hormones. You might be a different age. You have different circumstances, right? So I that takes a lot of research and tweaking. I'm willing to do it, but I'm not willing to stop doing that because I haven't found the answer yet, right? So
Mm.
right now I've tweaked to these high protein, very low fat, a couple days a week. And that boosts some weight loss. That makes things happen a little faster. So I'll lose a couple pounds, and then I'll eat, higher fat, moderate fat for a few days, and I might level out. So the weight loss is happening slowly, like slow, so slow, but fine. If I'm gonna live 50 more years, then I have 50 more years to lose the weight.
Yeah. And the thing is, when you've got this carnivore calm or this carnivore zen, it's a lot easier to have the patience around things like the slow weight loss and stuff, right?
Right, exactly.
Mm.
Exactly. In fact, that's funny that you brought up Zen, because at work, that's my nickname. They call me Zen Jen because I'm the one that's not reactive to anything.
That's so interesting.
And everybody else is flipping out. The copier doesn't work. Oh my God, the copier doesn't work. I'm like, okay, so I'll teach the old fashioned way today, whatever.
So in that situation, like let's look at that situation where you're at school, you've got to make copies and stuff, and the class is starting soon, and you're under a bit of pressure. I mean, what is your thinking pattern about that now compared to what it would have been, 6 or 7 years ago?
6 or 7 years ago, I would have flipped out that I didn't have the copy machine. I would have like been sitting in my classroom, really stressed, not knowing what I was going to do with my students. And now the copy machine was out of toner this morning, so I couldn't do my planned lesson, right? So I said, "Hey kids, we can't do the planned lesson today. Instead, I'm going to give you paper, and instead of filling out the worksheet on the worksheet, we're going to make our own worksheet. Let's be creative," right? My
Mm.
creative mind works better. I can solve problems better because I'm calm.
Mm.
That's it. I'm a problem solver. We can't come to resolution on anything if we're full of anxiety, right? We can't take care of ourselves when we're full of anxiety, but when the anxiety is gone, we can do anything. We can solve a problem.
Yeah.
It's a non-issue for me. There's no
So
there's no reason to flip out over it. Just do something else.
that reminds me of an analogy that my colleague used to talk about relating to communication, but it relates to this as well. So, like 6 or 7 years ago, before you were eating animal based, that kind of running out of toner. If you were water running down a hill, that running out of toner, you would be hitting a stone and just stopping. Like you would, as water, you would see that stone as I can't go any further now.
Right.
But now you are doing animal based, you become real water, and that's kind of like you get to the stone and you just the water parts and goes around the stone and continues down the hill.
Yeah, there's flow every day. That's
Mm,
like what I was saying before about just feeling aligned. Like everything just flows into place all the time because there's
mm,
nothing, right, like you said, there's nothing stopping me. There's no more stones in the way
yeah,
any place, anywhere.
yeah. Oh, very nice.
Yeah.
So, look, Jen, I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your story. Do you have an Instagram or Twitter or anything that people can reach out to you?
Um, I have an Instagram. I'm not a big social media person, but it's beautiful introvert is my Instagram.
Okay. Sure. If it's okay, I'll link to that in the description so people
Sure,
can contact you if they've got questions or want to touch base with you.
sure.
Um, yeah. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing with us, Jen. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. It was great fun and a pleasure to speak with you.